Right, greetings my fellow golf nerdos and welcome back to Migmatis Golf. Today we're talking about weight shift boards, plane boards, pressure boards, whatever you want to call it. Now we all know that there's a few on the market out there that range from anything from $100 basically to $300 for basically a teeter-totter, right? It's not exactly rocket science. Most of you will have built yourself or tried to build a very simple one, which would consist of a piece of plywood, something like this, couple feet long, one dowel or piece of wood right in the middle, about 3/4 of an inch high, something like that, allowing the board to rock like that. But we, my friends, are going to build one of these puppies on steroids. That's right, we're going to build a better version. Now, this is built after doing some research about the ones that are out there on the market that have a bit more engineering into them. And after a bit of research, I discovered that if you just have one piece of wood in the middle, the amount of weight movement or pressure shift required is identical in both directions, but for most amateurs that's not what we want. What we want is we want something slightly harder, so more of a pressure shift required into the front foot at the start of the downswing than just getting the weight back on the backswing. So I have come up with this design. This design has two dowels or two pieces of wood. One is slightly higher than the other. So this one is about 3/4 of an inch tall and this one is about an inch tall. Now these are to use on grass or on a golf hitting mat. I would not trust this thing on concrete or a hard floor. It's going to slip all over the place. But not only are the height of these two pieces of wood different, but also they are spaced differently. They are spaced, I don't know if you can see, but the distance from this one, which would be the front one, the one closest to your front foot, the distance between this one and the front edge is shorter than the distance between this one and the back edge. That is because we want it to be relatively easy to put a pressure shift into the trail leg on the backswing, but then we really want to train having to make a big move into that forward leg on the downswing. That is what's required for most amateurs. Most amateurs don't get into that lead side in order to pop out of it and compress the ball. There's a few little Brucey bonuses included in my new version. This little thing here, you can see like a bit of like the tail of a skateboard. I wish I'd come up with that idea myself, but I didn't. I stole it. That's right, I stole the idea. But it's not like it's rocket science. The reason I have that little ramp at the back there is so that the trail foot is always tilted. I don't know if you can see my feet. Is always tilted at a bit of an angle. That does two things. That will stop you from swaying outside of your right foot on the way back. So it will stop you from doing that. So you'll have that kind of kicked in, be able to turn around a stable right side. And also it gives you the feeling of something to push off slightly to get your weight transferred or pressure transferred. You got to be careful with these terms because people freak out. They lose their minds on the internet when you interchange these words. So the other things I added is I added some of that grip tape that you see on stairs and stuff like that. That is just so that your foot has a bit more traction for the torque that you're going to apply. And on the front edge, so on the lead leg side, I have just screwed in, so this is 3/4 inch plywood, I've screwed in some inch-long screws, countersunk. They're sticking out just under 1/4 of an inch there. And that is so that when you transfer your weight, so there's a bit of pressure shift or weight transfer onto the front, but then there's a lot of torque in the golf swing. And if you didn't have those, this thing has a tendency to spin out on you and it gets a bit unstable. So that just grips the ground, stops this thing from spinning and makes it a bit more stable. So that's it. This is a better weight shift board. The whole thing, I mean, I had scraps of wood, right? But if I was to buy all this, the whole thing would cost less than 20 bucks. I would say 10 bucks. I will take some close-up video of it with dimensions and explain the spacing of the two battens. That's the word I was looking for, battens. It's a very British word. Those two battens there, that is, they are spaced differently than equidistant from both sides, so I'll explain that to you and give you a close-up so you can build one yourself. Let's have a little look at it in action, shall we? Right, here we go. Let's give it a whirl, give it a demo. As you can see, I even painted on or sharpied on an arrow, so you idiots know which way it goes round. Right, here we go. So on the floor it goes. Now, one quick caveat to this. Depending on the firmness of your hitting mat, you know, some mats are softer than others. You might have to play around with the height of these battens because you might find that they just sink too far into the pile of the mat and then there's no rocking at all. So I played around this is about perfect for mine, but around the 3/4 inch, 1 inch thickness is the perfect scenario. So here I am, I'm on the board. Going to start with the weight evenly distributed, maybe slightly favoring the left side, and then as we go back, make sure that board bottoms out, and then this is the move. This is the gold dust right here, that move there. Because of the placement of these battens, this requires a lot of effort. It's not going to require as much effort of that in your real swing, but most amateurs suck at this move. They just don't, they spin the shoulders before they do this. So this forces you to make that huge move, and then you'll find that, you know, like everything with changing your golf swing, it will bleed into your real swing, not as much as what you're doing, but slowly it will bleed in. Just be careful you don't overdo it. But that's it. Let's do some close-up, my friends. Right, here we go. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. So there is the board, 24 inches long, 12 inches wide. That arrow there is for the dum-dums that don't know which way to use it. So first things first, you can see I've put some of that sticky, stair, grippy stuff on there. That's just so that your feet have a bit more traction when you're talking. And then at the back here, you'll notice I kind of rabbited in. You don't have to rabbit in. I just did it because I have the tools and I was bored. But just there's a 15-degree wedge on the back there. That might be a bit excessive. You might want to go with 10 degrees, but cut yourself a little wedge and put it on the back. That's just so that your foot sits at an angle there, and as I explained, it kind of stops the sway and it kind of primes your right leg to push off on the downswing. So that is the top side. If we just get profile view, you can see the two battens. Now you can see the back one is about 3/4 of an inch thick, about an inch thick for the front one there. If we flip it over and keep the same orientation, I can show you how I've set this up. So first things first, as I said, on the front edge here, these are some inch-long screws through the 1/4 inch ply, which they stick out about 1/4 of an inch, and I kind of file down the tip so they don't absolutely murder somebody if they touch it with their hand. But that gives you a bit of grip, stops the whole board spinning. If we take the exact center line here, ignore these mistakes I made, I reversed it all, but if you take the center line here, so 2 foot the whole length, so that's 12 inches from each side. If you go over to about 3 inches, and then you put your back, remember this is the front over here, you put your back batten, and then from the center line you go over 4.5 inches and put your second batten there. These are just screwed in. I wanted to be able to move them, so I didn't want to glue them, but you could glue them once you get them where you want them. That works out about perfectly. This front batten is slightly higher than this one simply because of the momentum arm that you see. Because this guy is closer to here, I found that if it was the same height as this guy, there wasn't much effort required to tip it over and this front edge kind of touched the ground straight away. So this seems like a good setup, but you can experiment. And there it is. One last time, let's flip it over. There it is. The pressure shift or the weight shift board on steroids. We're juicing. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel. Give us some feedback, maybe some thumbs up, all that good stuff. Leave some comments if you built one of these. Let us know if you build one, if you're enjoying it. All right, catch you soon with another video.